Okay, the day is May 1st, 2022. We can go ahead and get started with our first topic, new prospects and removals. Dim?
Sure. Thanks to Avid Learner for also helping me out with that and just double checking stuff. So on DAO prospects this week we have two. One is Jairus. Everybody knows Jairus. He is a major part of our operations and is helping tons with everything from the hackathon to video creation, YouTube. He's everywhere. So thank you, Jairus. I see you here as well. So obviously this guy is an addition. Um, and
100%.
yeah, and the second prospect of this week is I think a new member called Uzi Dude. But from him, I think we would require some more activity and potentially an intro in the DAO Prospects channel. So I'll reach out to him after this call to yeah, see how we can get this done since he was interested in joining the DAO. On removals, Cherrytron is the only person who has lost the gorilla status. I've reached out to him personally yesterday, but maybe he hasn't had time to respond yet. So I'll wait until the end of this call to see if he responds. And in terms of activity, it would be Daniel. He is a designer with us, but he has been pretty inactive in the past weeks. So I think he should be removed at this point. And obviously, um, it's this position is open again when he finds more time on or is able to commit more time here. So yeah, I'll paste these prospects and removals in live questions and um, like every time in the Grape chat after the call, I'll inform these individuals.
Yeah, I think that was pretty straightforward. I don't think there's any other comments on the new prospects and removals. Anyone else?
I mean, to be fair for Daniel, last month, I think I'm not sure if he posted something where I see it. I see it having been posted. Um, but I would consider that as a potential edge case because there was work done last epoch, or at least it appears to be. I might hold off on Daniel.
Okay, let's Dean is like boot Daniel in my opinion. Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, up to the DAO board if anybody, if you guys all agree. I'm uh, I'm just voting my I'm voicing my opposition.
Okay, you say no. Dim, what do you say?
I say yes.
Boot him. Taki?
I say yes because the last couple of weeks, the only feedback I've seen from Denial is complaining in the contents about the emissions and what's been done to, to finish this situation, but no input at all. Even though we have repeatedly told him that we are part of a decision, each and every one of us, but we've never heard any feedback or anything.
Yeah. Um, yeah,
Okay.
I've seen that as well. He's a down member. Like he's asking about emissions. This is the place to talk about emissions. He's never here. So, I mean, to me, that's a clear case. Um, so I think we've reached the majority, right?
No.
Oh,
Pause.
no. Apologies.
But I also say yes because it's something. Complaining is not the problem, but
Mhm.
someone needs to actually then do something about it.
Right.
And yeah,
Okay. Majority.
Sounds good.
He's out. Um, and there's always a path for him to come back if
Mhm.
he so chooses.
yeah.
Absolutely.
We can move on to the next metrics. Archimedes, you want to give us the updates that you had given earlier?
Yep. One second. So we have for April, we've had 10 proposals, which is more than any previous month or previous epoch. So congratulations to the DAO, and I think May we're going to have even more proposals, notably successful proposals, which might be valuable. Our Grape staked on Realms has increased. We're at 7.69 or approximately, and I had to say 7.69. Obviously, symbolic number. But we're almost at 7.7 million Grape staked in Realms. So progressing ever since, I think ever since CryptoPaws's proposal to tie Grape emissions to Grape staked on Realms, we saw a pretty significant increase. Roughly 1 million more Grape or more has been added to Realms as a result of that. So great job. The incentive obviously is there, and whoever's been paying attention is taking action and moving forward. We have 20 Neanderthals at the moment, which is one more than we had last time we spoke. So we have another individual that's capable of submitting proposals added to the mix, and yeah, that's the DAO metrics for now. I think the one proposal we have pending is the Socian proposal, which we'll segue into here, and I'll pass this back off to you guys to fill in CryptoPause, or if anybody wants to bring that up in terms of what we think we want to do about that, because I know you have a pretty good answer to it.
Yeah, sure. I posted the on-chain proposal, the link to Realms in live chat. Basically, we don't reach quorum right now, and it's going on for a bit more than a day. So what we will do is make an announcement on Discord
Yeah,
in
for
order
some
to.
weird reason, there is no announcement in the Realms voting channel as well for this vote.
Yeah, and we also don't have really we don't have any like links or discussion linked to it. So in the proposal itself, and I think that's also a reason why maybe people don't vote and don't understand why they should vote or what it entails. So yeah, an announcement would be good there. And
Yeah,
I also yeah.
sorry. And just to add to something that we were mentioning before, but I wanted to call it out, is there are people in certain geographic locations that might not be able to access Socian, so they're not either fully aware of what Socian is or what the bonds look like, and you'd have to use a VPN to be able to access it, which is probably why it might not be getting as many votes as it could without further description.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
I'm a bit. So you think that every time that we should have a sale on Social, the monthly sale or that sale, we should have a discussion explaining how Social works and what it does and how owning our own liquidity, etc., etc.
I mean, maybe at least linking what the previous discussions we had, refreshing people's memory.
Yeah, it's basically a refresher. And yeah, it's also I think a good idea to state why people should vote yes when making a proposal, or maybe I started in the documentation with what a proposal could or how it could be structured. So like a brief reminder in that case would totally make sense, or at least refer to what happened last time and why we should do it again.
Yeah, but on the other hand,
It's not wrong
I don't want to.
to
I
do
don't
it,
want to
but I
complain
think it would help.
for any of the sides. Like I don't want to be the one saying we need to do it because of this or because of the other. I want people to to be themselves and vote. I did not vote for the first 2 days. I wanted to see where this is going to go. I see what you're saying. I'll if I'm the one making the proposal next time, I'll make sure to link some to the
Yeah.
old conversation we had. But
Also,
I don't want it to be me. You know, I'd love someone else to do it. I'd love, and I've encouraged the social team to actually have 200,000 Grape, and they will be the ones actually posting
Be
the.
cool, yeah.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, and I love the fact that the head of the social team, the founder of social, jumped in to explain why this is beneficial for Grape. I think that that speaks louder than any explanation that I
Yeah.
could have provided. So if people don't understand, I really encourage them to actually go read the comments under the proposal, and it's uh, it's beautiful. Really, I really appreciate the fact that he took the time, and it's annoying, by the way, because there is a character limit when you are writing a proposal. So most probably he wrote a huge text and it was not going through. I really
Yep.
appreciate the effort.
Yeah,
Yep.
we
And we were
talked about
talking
how cool
about
that
that.
was.
Yeah, exactly. That's huge. Those are one of those things that we think is something we should be communicating more. And this is decentralization at its finest, I think.
Yeah. On that note, as a reminder, Realms parses GitHub gist. So if you write everything you want to write in a GitHub gist and paste the link, then it will parse it in whole, and there is no character limitation there. So
Good to know. Thanks for the detail.
Yeah, and we've been talking about documentation as well to make it some type of simple template that anyone that wants to submit a proposal can use, so that it's clear. Because I think the last time we had somebody, what was it? The the hackathon prize, right? The title, the title and description were very limited as well. And if we hadn't had an excessive discussion about it recently, it might not have been clear. But I know the social discussion is just a repetition of the existing process that we already have. I'm not misunderstanding that.
And it's beautiful because if you notice the actual proposal sends 250K Grape to be sold for the social bond, and 2.5K Grape to the treasury controlled by the social DAO, the Grape treasury that's controlled by the social DAO. So I really love the fact that this is a proposal that contains two instructions to two different wallets in two different sizes.
Yep, that answers one of my questions. Thank you for that.
yeah, I linked a example draft proposal. I also put it in the documentation. I'm not 100% finished, but this is something how it could look like. And I also linked the GitHub gist link in our documentation. So
Lots of people have voted. Oh, I didn't see that. Amazing. We're really close at passing it, or at
Yep.
not passing it. People have been participating, and that's the important thing.
Yep.
Yeah, with all these changes, I think we should start evaluating a change in quorum soon.
I mean, quorum has been increasing anyways with each epoch.
That's
I guess
yeah.
in the number of grape, right? But I do see what you mean, especially with the influx of I don't know how much, but with Paz's new uh, proposal, there's been an
Mhm.
influx of new voters or potential voters. So
Yeah, but just something that we can keep in mind if we see that. Um, yeah, in the future, because it exists for a reason.
yeah, what is a GitHub gist? Is it like a
Summaries.
template?
I posted, here's the link. It's basically yeah, for you can paste whatever you like. It's you can paste code or whatever, and it has revisions. So there's versioning, and basically you can share everything with someone or a project or
Ah, I see. So the gist of something that makes sense.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other comments on this? The social finance? Questions, concerns?
Nope. I think we're good. My opinion.
Excellent.
Feel free to ask me anything. Also, no need, it doesn't need to be during DAO hours. If anybody from the audience has any questions about it, please feel free to reach out.
Awesome, and thank you for that. Thank you for that, Wales friend. That was great to see the proposal, and great to see that it's it's sparking conversation about it, which is
And
great.
it's being pushed by the team that is providing the service. So
Yeah, bro.
this is
Crazy.
driven through. I really hope they become shareholders of Grape and DAO members and steer the direction they want to. And I really love where this is going. So
I
Yep.
remember having the conversation when deciding to go with Socian or with Invictus. And
wow,
man,
what a win!
what crazy. It
What
felt
a
like you might have
win!
been fighting against an army to go with Invictus at that time. And you went
Yeah,
with
yeah,
Socian.
and
So
we had
thanks.
4 choices. Remember, it was Invictus,
Yeah.
it was the
Odds.
Synthetify team,
Oh,
and it was another one. And also, we
uh,
were waiting for the actual Olympus DAO itself. And 4 out of 5 choices don't exist anymore. We went with the one
Wow.
that actually survived.
Wow.
uh, the grapeness, man. The grapeness of that decision. Wow.
Yeah, going against the current. I remember. I'm not gonna name names, but I remember those advocating for another team.
It's
Nice
probably
one,
Dim.
man. Bravo.
Yeah. Next proposal is the GGC contribution proposal. Not live yet, but maybe Dim can give us a bit of a rundown on that.
No, I mean, just posted because I understand the time sensitivity of the proposal. Unfortunately, these things take time from a discussion to on-chain vote.
Hmm.
And I was hoping that we could, yeah, move ahead with it sooner rather than later. Um, but do we have the soul? I need to check again. But the last time I checked, we didn't have soul in the treasury. But I'm gonna check now.
And that changed with the monkey, right?
Yeah.
So
I'm checking while we're speaking. Last I saw, there was a comment on the funds going back to the community. I need to check. The other thing that I think we said we were going to do is also document all the treasury wallets that might exist, um, because it's possible that it's in the Realms treasury wallet. It's likely that it's there, and we just need to have a better documentation of everywhere that we could have funds and where they could be dispersed from. Just FYI.
We had our Grape Gaming Council meeting tonight. We're currently now at 5 assets for Step N for ourselves, so we can just pull that if we like for now. If it's too much hassle, and we'll just do our own management from there and just build up from the beginning. That's easy enough for us. We've got 5 assets. We're going to be getting a 6th asset very soon due to something Step N did. So we're going to be able to make our Solana and start buying games as of next week. We'll start having a look at a different game and getting into.
yeah, and the proposal itself won't be
Yeah,
tied to Step N, right? So it's basically the proposal will be that is on chain is more in lines of you, the gaming council, getting funds to manage,
well, we've
and
got a
then
squads now, so we need to move some stuff into squads. Squads isn't going to be an ideal situation,
yeah.
especially not with it's not usable for Step N in the very
Oh,
specific case. We have to work as a trust factor in that at the moment in a less decentralized way. So at the moment we've got I've got an asset to give to Dean. I've got an asset to Riptide. They're going to be running additional assets along with myself, and those contributions will go back into the Grape Gaming Council, and we can actually just start buying assets and NFTs at what we vote. So we've got to make our mind up to how we work with the squads and exactly what's going in there, because it's $5 to $8 a transaction. So we need to make sure we don't just chew it all up and pulling things in and out. But from
good to
next week
know.
we should be able to hopefully start buying some shit that's not step ins. That's the whole idea, is to get games that we can start using, the organisers can use and stuff like that. So we're doing a few moves, but the gaming council is chatting every week, so it's good. We've got a good team of guys that want to do shit, and at least now we can get Dean. We're going to get Dean running. So everyone kept saying buying runners, but we're just going to start him on joggers. Wales friend, we've got a photo drawn up tonight for the Athens DAO run with Step In. Tacky's done a shitload of hardcore work for that, which is really amazing. And that's coming along well. So there'll be that live event, of course, at the Athens DAO.
If there are extra shoes, if I'm understanding correctly, it would be nice to do like to get one of those extra, because I know some people had expressed interest, but it'd be
Yeah,
nice
so
if we
we're
could do
not
something.
we're not doing we can't do a guild like service. It's actually against the terms of service. They're just kind of changing that. So the
I
way we're
see.
doing it is to make sure that obviously, as an ambassador for Step In, I've got to be careful. I'm not going to put myself in a position where I break shit, break rules, so to speak. But what we're doing now is there are ways you can move your assets around. It's not hard. It's just you can't how you used to be able to do the account, where you can give someone the email address and then a verification code. They could then log in, but that's now actually against the terms of service. So the only real way to actually get someone to use an asset for the gaming council at the moment is complete trust. So it's a risk, isn't it? Like you're given the asset, but
Yeah.
obviously I've held assets for the photo finish, and of course we trust Riptide and Dean. So it's just one of those things at the moment. We're working off trust, but we do have the squad set up. We do obviously want to put assets into that, and you've got a squad's staking function too. But if we want to put Solana into the staking function and then pull it out, I think there's a 7-day wait and a $5 to $8 fee. So it's kind of a hard situation. Good for a lot of funds, but if you're losing that on, we had 22 Solana in the wallet this morning. So like to lose $6 to $8 on that is a decent fee, but we've still got to work towards that decentralized version of it.
Yeah.
For the
Okay.
on-chain vote itself, we will set it up for squads, right? And then you
Yes.
distribute it as you see
Well,
fit. Okay.
the squads is set up to go. So we've got the squads wallet, and we've got I believe 5 of us set up to sign for that, signatories. Might have been 6. But yeah, the intention is absolutely to be using the squads. But at least now we're spreading as well these sneakers out. So it's not to supply a guild service. This is something that we've got to be very careful with. Is the team of Step In haven't released a lending feature because they're not trying to do that initially. So there are a lot of DAOs out there that are starting to do this themselves as well, and some big ones, some prominent ones that are spending a lot on assets. But that's up to them to do their own terms of service and stuff like that. Last thing we want to do is risk Solana and having an account shut down. And of course, I'm not going to put myself in a position where I'll get in trouble for that.
Yeah. Definitely.
But that's cool. We've
Great.
now got a good asset base with the 5, and we'll get a 6th one. So actually from there, so what was it? It was DFA Academy actually donated an NFT to the Gaming Council tonight. They're
Wow.
now running 15 assets across their 5 mobile phones. They've got a whole heap of uniforms. The photos people can see. I'll see if I can find a link. I've got one in the gaming council at the moment, but they've got a whole heap of uniforms. They're doing really, really well. So those assets should be earning them something like 35 GST a day across 5 accounts. So I think I worked it out to something like potential of $6,000 a month from our
Damn.
initial start of $5,000 from Grape. That was us that did that. So as as a fucking DAO, we've done something pretty special out there. So
That's
you can definitely
amazing.
check the YouTubes and stuff and all that. But I'll link a photo. That the uniforms are pretty special. So for the kids for that. But obviously they've
That's
got
awesome.
almost as much USDC spare as what we gave them at the start. So they've actually, it looks like DFA is doing a great job so far. Obviously, without looking under the hood, we don't get to see under the hood. But he's now bringing it back to Grape and donated an NFT to us to now help the gaming council make more resources to be able to work and do more things. All right, thank you, lads.
Thanks, Born Dog.
Oh, thank you. Really awesome to hear all this.
Hmm. Okay, next topic would be the GAN token. Update on GAN holders, and I guess we need an update as well on the agility fund used by the DAO board.
I'll talk about the agility fund used by the DAO board. Grape as a server needed a GAN token, and so it came to pass that we needed to put forward um, a step to get the Grape 10,527 um, approximately Grape, and we took 10,530 and transferred a GAN token from uh, the Agility Fund, transferred to Grape, turned it into a GAN token, and sent it to the Grape Evil wallet, which is our community treasury fund, which now also has, just for the sake of edification, I'm posting in the chat what the community treasury wallet has right now, so that we're all aligned on how much SOL is there from the previous conversation. So we have a GAN token, and it's ascribed and assigned to Grape. So Grape has Grape Access Network token. As far as the general process of communicating, we've created templates. There have been numerous conversations. The community has really banded together to communicate out to partners via DMs, via Twitter, via all available sources. There's been an announcement. There's the roadmap documentation that called this out earlier last month. And so, getting partners to react, I think because we're also in a little bit of a bear market, people are slower to respond. In general, that activity is taking a little longer than we would have hoped, but the message is circulating, and we're trying to make progress on getting more partners out there. If there are any projects or partners or members that are working with Grape or using Grape verification, let's continue to get that message out. The tweets are one of the best ways to do it. And I think maybe I'll post one of our quick update type template responses here in the chat so that everybody can. 25 GAN circulating. Thank you, Billy. So there's 25 GAN currently in the hands of projects. I don't think we have enough of those projects actually reaching back out to tell us which wallet they're holding it in. So we need more of that.
Yeah, I saw in the group chat that a number of projects were having an issue what to do after they purchase said GAN token.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing. So right now, I think just to be clear, we said May 1st. I think we're giving a grace period of a few days to let people continue to get the token. I think by May 7th, removal will be the first thing that gets deactivated if a server doesn't have the GAN token. So the process of verification is usually users go in, they react to the emoji, they get a role, right? We have recurring processes on a 24-hour basis that remove roles regularly from people across all these different servers. There are hundreds of thousands of users we're talking about here. And the process by which we're saying is going to be deactivated is that removal process. By May 7th, projects or partners that don't have the GAN token, that'll be the first thing to stop working effectively in the interim while we continue to promote it. But it's great to see it. Having done it myself, I probably should have taken a video of
Hey, there might be a bounty for that, buddy.
yeah, that's why I was kind of segueing into it. Die Knight, I'm doing this flow of handing it back. This is the baton I'm giving back to you on that.
110%.
Yeah.
110%.
There you go. Go for it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's great.
And
It would be
also,
nice that you maybe. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I just wanted to add, if someone from the audience is on a server and they're not sure whether the server is using Grape for accessing it, and they're not sure whether the server already has a GAN token, just hit me up or anybody else from the DAO board or a moderator, and we can cross-check, and we can also maybe give you a text that you can send to an admin or a moderator there in order to get them, yeah, buying the GAN token. Because I think the more people are aware of the fact that we need to spread the word a bit more, the better. So, and we are all part of many Discords. Yeah, it makes it just easier to also do it with as many people as possible, because it's obviously like 900 partner servers and only a handful moderators, and it's a Herculean job, as Taki put it rightly. So, yeah.
Yeah. Taki, were there any issues with the little graphic made by Rito?
I believe they were. It's fine. I asked Starflash just to be on the safe side about the use of CI, but I think it's awesome. Just wanted to double check on this.
Yeah. And maybe this is something as well, because I noticed that people were having issues on number 4 on the documentation as well. It just said visit the Discord, but I don't think they knew exactly where to go. I could be wrong. Maybe I just completely forgot about it, but just making it clearer for people, um, what steps to take.
Did
So even
we
if
get
this,
any? Sorry.
uh, no, I was just gonna say if people do come to the server, we can give them maybe this infographic. It's easier, or even if this can be incorporated into the DMs if those are still being sent out. Very simple, straightforward. It's got colors, so maybe this could be something that could assist on that communication.
Also set up a form, right? So whether to Discord or use the form, and then we have a form where they put in their name and their server name and the wallet address maybe, and a contact.
What do you mean? A form where here on?
For them to fill, basically. Something
Oh, a form. I see. I see.
because
Okay.
maybe if they don't, maybe they aren't members of the Grape Discord, or
Hmm.
whoever is doing it, and then they need to find the correct channel, and you can't link directly to the channel for people who aren't already members
Yeah.
and they're not verified, and yeah, so it's basically several steps for them to do.
Yeah. Don't we have tickets? Like this is something like I think I thought we used to have tickets where I can't remember if
Oh, do
someone
we?
needed help, a support ticket. You open up a support ticket.
Yeah, we're not using tickets right now for this purpose.
Got it.
We never did.
Got it.
We just use it for, you know, better information displaying.
Yeah, the
I get it.
request has been for people to post it back into Grape Access Help, which is an open channel for
Mhm.
anybody
Yeah.
to access on our Discord.
We could make
Um,
it
Okay.
ticket though, if you
the
guys want.
message, I think the message I posted kind of calls out all 3 points. You know, reading the article about the roadmap, finding the swap page to be able to take the grape and get the GAN token, and then an invite link that sends people directly to our um, Grape Access Help. I'm not a big fan of putting links in messages personally.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this is the best alternative to trying to get the message out, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, did we get some feedback other than or other than noticing that some people have issues? Did partners say anything, or?
I think the issues are unrelated to the GAN token.
Mm.
Those things typically can happen from time to time because somebody does something with their permissions on their server. I don't want to conflate the two issues. The GAN token has not begun to be functional or operational as a method of access or denying access. So those topics are probably separate from the actual GAN token discussion. And by the way, in case anybody sees it or is curious where it shows up as an NFT. It shows up under the NFTs more than it shows up under your standard tokens, if I'm not mistaken. That's how I saw it when I was running the test. I should have probably taken a couple of snapshots, but fun fact. And it's a beautiful little icon of a wallet that I think we've used before for our Grape Access emoji in the past.
Good point. I need to add that to the documentation, the icon itself.
Yep.
I want to promote it.
Yeah, and you can see it if you look at the Grape Evil wallet. If you look at the NFTs in the Grape Evil wallet, it should be there. So if you're curious what that looks like, you can see it in that particular place.
I already saw it. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I guess we can move on. At least we have a way forward, and steps to take that hopefully identify some of the issues that people have been having with
Dinette, I did
obtaining
have a
and applying.
question before we move.
Please.
Oh yeah. So, and again, I completely agree with what Taki said, that this is a Herculean job. But we have 25 out of 900, and I think the 25 GAN. I think somebody mentioned that even all of those 25 GAN hasn't been set up on the channels. Like, from a confidence perspective, like, do we think this is gonna work in a week, or are we kind of like just pushing our luck right now?
Well, I think there's an interesting question there that I personally have been on both sides of that equation in terms of debating it. Right? It's either A, we wait until everybody gets the GAN token, and then launch whatever we need to launch, or we launch what we need to launch, and as people start to realize that there's something not working the way it should, unfortunately, that might be the quickest way for adoption, right? Um, Fortunately or unfortunately, the thing is that there's a call to action. There have been numerous tweets, there have been discussions, there are DMs, there are announcements in our server. Um, you know, more time, sure, but the point is that at some point this needs to be rolled out. And if we're going to wait, what's the acceptable percentage of the number of servers where we're going to wait until we have X number of servers get it to get it rolled out, right?
That's correct. From a yeah, I hear your point from um hey, what can we do in terms of planning this? My question was more in terms of like executing this. Like, if let's say our confidence is low in being able to, well, so before I say that, so the reason I'm bringing this up is, if we're probably extending the deadline once, right? And then if we keep on extending the deadline, that kind of also sends a bad message, or at least I don't think the message that we would want to send, that we're just going to continue extending it. And if we're saying we're extending it for a week, and we have a confidence level of like less than 50% of pulling it off, then I don't think we should extend it for a week. I think we should extend it for amount of time that we feel at least pretty confident that we can pull it off. And like, if we're saying, let's say we are moved it by a week, if there are organization steps that we can take to mobilize to pull this off, I think we should do that. Like if Taki's saying this is Herculean, right? We don't have enough mods to do this. Like, can we, set up like some sort of a volunteer list and like divvy up the channels, or put in some sort of a task force to kind of get this done?
Yeah,
Now that's
I
that's
think
where I was coming from.
I get what you're saying. Sorry, go ahead, CryptoPause. I don't want to be the only one. responding
No,
to
I
this, and I
think
think
it's there are multiple fronts here. I also wrote down my thoughts in a DAO board channel, and I think also in the Grape chat. Um, I, I think for us it's important that we don't back down, because it's actually communicated in our roadmap, and it's the vision for what we think the project should move forward to. And our job is to actually inform better. And we started doing that. So I'm pretty confident that extending the deadline basically for a week should be enough if we continue to communicate with the partners, and also B, make a list of our most valued partners, like have 10 or 20 or 30 or something like that, and um, specifically get in touch with them and make sure that they are properly set up. Because if we have our most important servers and partners on board and everything works for them, it's good for the project itself and for us. And also, there won't be that much of a backlash, because people are always on multiple servers. And when they see that in some communities Grape Access works and in other communities it doesn't, then it's obviously not necessarily the fault of Grape. But if we don't do that, I think this could be an issue, because as you correctly say, 25 out of 900 is basically nothing. So I think it's important that we address our most important partners or have a plan for them. And even if we don't um, complete the list like of 20 or 30 partners, and if they don't get back to us, we should make sure and we should decide whether there are valued enough basically clients for us to take care like for the next months or so. We don't know what maybe if whether there are also internal issues with them. We need to remind ourselves that if something came up for us and we needed to decide on something immediately or with a week's notice or so, then we also would have difficulties doing it. So why wouldn't it be the same in other communities? What I want to say is we should make sure that we try and start thinking more in terms of a service provider that from now on takes money for providing the service. We were free until now, but with the GAN token, introduction of the GAN token, we're more of a service provider. And I think on a service level, we need to make sure that our clients are informed. And it's not necessarily only their responsibility to keep themselves informed. So that's basically my view on that.
I totally understood, and I think just to clarify a couple of points, Grape was complementary. It always was complementary in terms of the fact that we have a dashboard that could be leveraged by users directly, and the servers that wanted to leverage Grape access verification, it was an open source and still is. You know, all our tools are open source. You know, they could, if they wanted to, build their own or leverage Grape, and I think it's much easier to just use Grape than to anything else because it's so accurate and there's a lot of nuance to the process that people don't fully understand. Um, in terms of the process of getting the GAN token, I think it's very important that we clarify it's a 10-minute step-by-step process. It's not super complicated to take an amount of USDC or SOL, go to Jupiter exchange for Grape, and then go to Strata Protocol, swap, and procure your GAN token, send it to the wallet of your choosing, and send the wallet to Grape. Right? That's effectively 4 steps, 5 steps. That's about 10 to 15 minutes tops for somebody to execute. If and I'll liken this to our DAO. Our DAO has participants that are active, right? And we have people, and we have the same way we have projects in the ecosystem that are using Grape, that we term partners. They're responsive that are responsive are moving forward with this. Obviously, we see that there are at least 25 of them that are responsive. We have an announcement in our server. We have Twitter notifications that have called it out. We have direct DMs that our moderators have been tasked with updating, and they're doing a fantastic job. Everybody's putting hands in to communicate this across the board, across the entire Grape group, of anybody that has access or communications open with any of the partners that we're talking about. If they aren't responsive, I don't think we should delay ourselves necessarily excessively. I do think that, allowing a certain amount of time is definitely, I agree with, but there's a balance that I'd like to draw. And the question
Definitely.
is, how long is enough? And I think, we started the conversation a week ago. We started the conversation earlier last month. Then we started talking about it. The token became available a little over a week ago, and the communication started to roll out for the process accordingly. In effect, it would take a day, and if a DAO wanted to submit a proposal the way we would through Realms, let's say, it might take up to a week for them to release funds for them to be able to get them. Fine, I get that, right? 10-minute process to do, but maybe it's a weekly process to just get the funds necessary. um, I think there needs to be a limit. And one of the
I agree.
things, and I hate to say it because I agree with the fact that I want to make sure everybody's aware and we give ample time and it's fair, right? We have existing partners or existing projects that have leveraged Grape, many of which I think it's important to call out to you, specifically CryptoPause, the point you're making about our most important partners or the ones that we deem to be high value. Those in general are being communicated to or have been communicated to. And I believe they're probably the ones that are the quickest ones to address and respond to the ask. Um, but I do think, and this might be something that I've learned over time in my particular role and professionally, is sometimes you need to turn things off, let them break, and see who complains. And I hate to say that, but that's a tech approach that I've noticed has been employed. Not one that I agree with operationally, but it works. It does work, right?
So some
Yes.
of the metrics that crypto you mentioned, like if we say there are 50 partners who are high valued, um, do we have a sense of those 50? We've got how much engagement we've got from them to give us confidence that we are getting good engagement from them. I think I might have misheard, but did Access you say that we have actually started DMing them, or were we planning to start DMing them?
No, we have.
Like, yeah, and do we have some sort of a sense? I'm trying to understand, like if we've reached out to people, like has it just been like crickets, or have people be like, okay, and then crickets, or like people working on it? Like, what the sense do we have on like that like outreach? Because if we have not had much success the last week, like what gives us confidence that we're gonna have success the next week?
We're depending our success on the response of other individuals. Is that what
Right.
I'm hearing? Yeah. So we've seen responsiveness to a lot of the projects that we reach out to, and
Okay.
some, I'll say this. I personally have posted a message to one particular partner and they haven't responded yet, and that was 4 days ago or 3 days ago, right? Um, and it's Sunday, right? You would expect by the weekend you'd have some type of response. So it really is a hit or miss. I can't quantify this in any way, in any meaningful way where I could tell you this, because we're talking about looking at Discord channels, we're looking at Grape Access help. There needs to be a lot more work in terms of going and finding that, and I don't know how valuable that information really is. I think the number of wallets we have that we've received, the number of GAN that has been procured, is the only metric that's publicly available. It's on chain and able for us to make that determination outright, right? Whether or not we communicate it and people are responsive, irrelevant. And I'm not trying to shut you down. I'm just saying the the true metric of whether or not this is working and whether or not the message is getting out and whether or not people are taking action is whether or not they got the GAN token. Um, 25 out of 900 channels, or 29 out of 900 servers that we're supporting right now, or at least have verification, have done so. So, and we're one of them.
No, no, let me clarify. I don't think you're shutting me down at all. I think you're giving the exact answers that I'm kind of looking for, right? Look, so another question. So let me rephrase my question. So let's say it's Friday next week. What number of GAN token would you look at to make any decision at all to extend or not extend? Is that something we've thought about?
Hey guys,
Yeah.
I like the conversation, but I think we've spent too much time on this. Let's circle back if we have more time, but I want to make sure we cover all the topics we have. Um, the culture of Grape has always been to kind of lean into a problem and kind of figure it out. I share both your all's point of view. But even as mentioned, like there's only 15% hold Grape in realms that are going to be receiving realms. We've taken some steps to try to address the issues, and we're just going to continue to do so. Um, so let's go ahead and move on to the next topic, which would be emissions.
It's
Um,
maybe last sentence to that. It's definitely something we should address in Tuesday call again,
mhm.
because it's obviously for the next week one of the most important things in terms of what Grape does right now. So again, if someone is willing or interested to help, just hit me up. Right now we have specifically, if I see it correctly, sent like 60 DMs to servers specifically on a one-to-one basis.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Okay. We now have next steps for emissions. One was proposed by the Copy Pasta crew, and one was proposed by Dean. I'm sure everyone has had a chance to read those, I hope. One, mine sought to grant emissions for March and February and then look towards April, identifying specific individuals, which we had already, both Dim and I, and granting them more grape. And Dean's proposal took a more holistic view. I'm for whichever proposal gets us moving towards the future. I know there was a flaw with our previous submissions, but with this new one that I had proposed with Tim, we tried to take everything into account as best as possible, um, using the feedback that the sub DAOs provided to us and the numbers that they had given to us, even their adjusted numbers. How do you guys think we should proceed with this?
Can we start with an easier question?
Do you like emissions?
Sure.
Okay, good.
Okay, great. Next one. Yeah. Maybe
Yeah,
there's a
so
mixed approach.
yeah, I
So
am my approach, I guess, kind of split it into two. We would grant February and March emissions at one point, which it typically led to around a 50%, give or take, reduction across the board for both March, or at least, with the past two epochs or the past 2 months, however you want to define it. And then in April, we would come and identify the individuals that you constantly see putting in work, showing up for these DAO calls, and granting them emissions for the April roll. A bit of a longer approach. Dean's emission kind of just takes everything into the equation, last three epochs, and we kind of move forward with hopefully new criteria of granted emissions, which again would just be identifying the individuals that are constantly showing up for Grape.
I think it reflects very well the process that we took. So basically, in February, we weren't sure. We wanted to figure out on how to do stuff, but we weren't sure how. So basically, my gut says that it would be for myself, it would be okay to proceed with February and March like you did, Dynite and Dim, and then continue with what Dean proposes, because it's in line of what we thought we should do, and like it's like an evolution, basically.
Mhm.
So
So perhaps what I'll do, if you guys think it's, did you want to say something, Dim?
No, go ahead on it.
Is we could put a vote, quickly summarizing both votes. I'll do a better job at explaining what the plan was for the April emissions. Um, Again, very similar, identifying the individuals that are constantly showing up. You'll see them. Dean posts a picture of them every single time when we have the calls like this, as well as others who just might not have the time to show up at this specific time due to their time zone. Um, and granted emissions on that point, and see, take a, I don't know, if that's taking it too long. I'm okay just deciding here between us, the DAO board, us five, and seeing. I think we should go with this one or this one. What do you guys think?
and for me, it gets pretty murky to decide on something that happened in February based on who was active then and did what, and so it's easier to use the metrics we used before, and that's why I'd opt for I mentioned.
Yeah. And because, like, in my view, if we would have gone through, it was flawed. We clearly knew that on February, but that weird transitionary period is difficult to define. Um, so we did try to address that by either increasing or decreasing certain members. When I had put my proposal there, it was meant for either sub-DAO individuals or the leaders to be like, hey, this person did much more, much less. I feel like this isn't fair on my part. Um, so it could be adjusted, because at the end of the day, it was just us trying to understand it as best as possible.
Mike, I have a quick question. Who are the sources of truth in terms of us gauging whether or not we're, the right people are being rewarded?
The sub-DAO leaders.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a constant between sub-DAO leaders and the board. In this case, specifically Dynite and myself, because we get some emissions and we kind of tweak them um, to an extent, depending on the criteria that we have outlined. To me, the two proposals um, are not extremely different, because what Dean has proposed, which includes April, is basically what we would have proposed for April. You can see that in the DAO board. We talked about it already. So to me, in essence, there's not a big difference there. So because I feel that we're already at the end of the month, and we have other things to talk about and move ahead with. I would recommend we move with Dean's proposal, um, just because, and I'm highlighting this again. I feel the implementation of this is quicker with how Dean has proposed it, even though the content, in my opinion, is super similar. So that would be my two grapes.
Okay. Taki, what do you think?
I basically agree with what Dean said. The proposals are very similar, and I think we should move forward with the one that Dean proposed.
Very good. Archimedes?
I'm in agreement.
Excellent. So CryptoPause, your voice doesn't matter. We have a majority.
No.
Yay.
I'm kidding. CryptoPause, I think you already outlined, but you want to outline it one more time?
No. I'm not against it. So it's
Okay.
yeah.
That's perfect. All right, we have our next steps. We're going to move forward with Dean's emission model, and I guess that would be our next realms vote, right? Are there any updates? Any other recommendations? The only one of the issues I had with it was Dean took himself out completely from emissions.
Oh yeah, that's not gonna happen. I mean, I don't see how that makes sense. That to me doesn't
Um,
make sense, and also what doesn't make sense, in my opinion, is the fact that there's a disagreement with his emissions for February and March when we understand that this is a system we would be using. It was clear, and we would be taking the new system into account from April, which is
mhm.
what Dean did for holistically. But now it really doesn't make sense for Dean not to receive emissions. I understand that it's a bit tricky to give emissions to yourself, so I get that from his side. So I think it's the DAO boys' responsibility now to make that small amendment.
Agreed.
Great call out, by the way.
Yeah.
But and now Dean is saying I want zero emission treasury. I'm not sure if that's the best use of funds. It would be a lot better for you to have these the, the extra grape amount, which should reflect how much you're providing value to the
Yep.
community, and use that for voting. I'd see that as a lot more beneficial.
Agreed.
Now, if somebody definitely wants to send them to the treasury, I guess you can receive them and send them to Grapeville, I guess,
Yeah, or my wallet. Either is okay.
or my wallet. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right. Great. I'm really excited that we got next steps for this. This has been too long. Glad. I'm glad. Any other final comments on the emissions proposal?
Past emissions, no.
Hey guys,
Hey,
uh,
bro.
would you give me maybe 2 days to tweak and propose a different model of the emissions, or would that be just because as much as possible, what I tried to accomplish here was move into a direction that I wholeheartedly support, but in creating it, I could visualize friction or points of contention. So
Yeah.
this was like this was the peanut butter around the medicine version. Um, I really like, even though we're saying it's Dean's. This was like a version that I was like, okay, if we have to go in this direction, I think that this is like the most. What I would like to propose is one more version, if you guys are okay with that, and I promise I can have that, within the next 48 hours.
Yeah, and we can discuss it on the next DAO call if that works, which is on Tuesday. Does that work?
Not two
Yep.
more days.
Yeah. Quick
Yeah,
math.
that works.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
What's
George.
2 days after two?
Yeah.
Rip.
Yeah, and then the future emissions. Do we want to touch on that at all? Should I bring up what I intend to do? And I'll
Please.
do that after our talk on Tuesday. But I think we've established that we want to reward and incentivize certain behavior in our community, and there's certain activities that we definitely want more of. DAO participation, both voting and proposal creation, are two things that I think we all have aligned on in terms of DAO proposals, the DAO participation side. That's going to be one thing that's going to come up as a proposal in the coming week for us to establish a rewards mechanism for people that submit proposals, successful proposals, and for those that vote on proposals. So we can engage and have, as much activity as possible. The first step was tying emissions to grapes staked on realms. And Billy and Dean raised a very good point of CryptoPaws's initial proposal to tie emissions to the grapes staked on realms for membership. I think clarifying and classifying any emissions that somebody wants to receive from having grapes staked on realms seems like a valid criteria for us to have in general, right? Um, so that's number one. Number two is the proposal in which we'll have a DAO rewards model that I'll propose after our Tuesday conversation, unless the emissions plan that gets put forward is something we want to go with going forward. To be clear, we already have bounties rolling out as a process, and we have it working currently. That's one area where we weren't capturing visibility, and there was really a limited process. Now it's up and running. I think the next step is DAO rewards, so we can get more proposals, active, valid proposals in, and more voting participation. Being number one. Number two, treasury contributions, which is something that I think we still need to define what constitutes a treasury contribution in some way from a individual or sub DAO. Case in point, the NFT Council having sold the monkey on the Grape NFT marketplace and returning the funds that were used to purchase that monkey, and then also allocating the remainder to the sub DAO for the NFT Council to be able to be self-sufficient and autonomous. um, what do we look at and how do we reward treasury contributions? I think that that's another key place where we need to define it and also reward it when it happens. And then this discussion on past emissions is all about work in some way. uh, Redefining that to a place where it's limited as opposed to uncapped and capable of being, and one person can get multiple missions for having 10 different roles, even if they don't actually fulfill all the requirements for their roles, is number three. So number one, DAO rewards. Number two, treasury backed contribution. And number three, work. Those would be the three different models, and they'll each be their own proposal as per previous conversations around submitting ideas around emissions models, and trying to decentralize the community and also the activities and incentives that need to be driving Grape forward.
Great. So DAO rewards, participation, and work provided.
Yep, and I think the only thing I've left out is membership growth, which I think is a very important metric. I don't think we figured that out yet, and I would say we could fit it into one of the three outlined, but I'll keep it as simple as possible so that there's no confusion around what do people need to do in order to earn Grape, and just keep it high level. But we'll
Okay.
talk about it. We could talk about it again on Tuesday. We don't need to spend time right now. Once we've
Yeah.
once we've discussed the new emissions model Dean's going to put forward.
Sounds good. That kind of segues us perfectly into the next topic, which would be the Grape membership classes, Membership Plus and Neanderthal class.
Yeah, I put
Your
it on
thoughts?
the agenda
Mhm.
because, and it's a good segue because we talked about it in the DAO board chat, and also it's something that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, but obviously for obvious reasons there were other things to consider. But it's something that I think many of us want to approach, but nobody so far did like a proposal on it. So it's more or less the membership plus idea is that there's a difference between the membership classes, obviously, and people don't actually have exactly the right amount or the correct amount for each class. Some have more and also stake them on realms, but they only would get um, percentage-wise emissions or rewards for their membership class respectively. So that's basically the idea of membership plus, or I don't know whether I remember it correctly. It's something you mentioned, and basically I think Billy had the idea. So yeah, that there needs to be then some additional incentive to hold more grape than only your class, and also it would be in line with yeah, basically so that everyone keeps their governance weight, so to say, when they have more grape than their class would require. And this obviously is also something for Neanderthal, because we talked about that, but never specifically entered it in any form of documentation or communicated that the Neanderthal class with 200,000 grape, right now they would get like rewards for a grape class A membership, but we talked about yeah, using the full 200,000 grapes. So we talked about it, but we never actually, yeah, made a decision, I guess. Any thoughts or comments?
Yeah, it's a great idea. I think you guys just need to put together exactly what the tiers are. But it makes 100% sense, right? That if they're like right now, there's a model out there which says, "Oh, I've got 500,000 grape. The best thing I should do now is have 2 Neanderthals and 4 gorillas." Like I'm, I don't think that there's somebody that's got 2 Neanderthals and 4 gorillas, but I wouldn't be surprised to find out there are, somebody out there has, 4 gorilla accounts. So what we're basically saying is, hey, if you've got that kind of moral compass, this is the path to, get the most governance allocated to you. I'd rather make it so that people don't feel that they need to go into that kind of circus. So the more tiers we provide, the less we incentivize that, in my opinion, poor moral uh, code.
Should it be something like on a one-to-one basis? Like if I have 200,000, then I get the same percent like when I have 300,000, or is it, or 100,000? Or is it like reaching a certain class level, and any grape that exceed the class level get a certain, yeah, like percentage, but not full?
From a calculation perspective, until there's like mango lockers, until we have the ability to lock those in realms, and again, this is something we want to do. It's just not available.
Available, yeah.
Once we add that, most likely it could be a constant calculation based on um, the amount locked. However,
Yeah.
today, because that's not the case, um, we need to have these kind of checkpoint flags, if you will. So, um, yeah, whatever model you guys lay out, I'm pretty sure we can implement it quickly. But we do need to have those waypoints, right? Just because of the way it would go for calculating. Otherwise, we would have to do a unique calculation for every single, um, just the way it works.
I guess this also could be a bounty. I create a bounty because there are no right or wrong concepts, right? And we need to figure out what would fit.
Yeah,
Someone needs
this
to explain
bounty,
why.
this bounty could go along with, like, so this is something that Realms specifically wants to figure out too, which is, you know, the reward distribution within a governance system. It hasn't been defined. It's never been created for anybody in Solana. So, you know, I do encourage everybody to, you know, also be on that server to share some ideas. And I do know that it's been proposed that when Athens DAO happens, that would be one of the priorities, is to figure out that distribution. So, you know, between now and then, anybody writing up the bounty, that's going to be a big help, not only for Grape, but for all of the Solana ecosystem. I think that's a very important bounty. And a lot of it has to do with non-technical things. It's how should this kind of system work? Let me see if I can get some of the text that's been shared so far on this idea. Um, so I'm going to like paste a picture, you know, just because it's going to be faster. This is some of the discussion I can see in the Realm server. And then what Billy says is very accurate. So Hydra is a distribution system which allows you know, fan out of funds to multiple wallets. So Solana's, you know, the tooling's getting there. And again, these things don't even exist really well on Ethereum. So yeah, I encourage people to put together, you know, as you see, you can go right here on that picture I just posted. You know, Sebastian's the main guy behind Realms. These are things that people are discussing, right? It's in the realm of ideation, and it's not a problem. A lot of, you know, moving forward, a lot of governance is not going to be around the difficulty of technical implementation. It's going to be the difficulty of like figuring out the correct implementations to even attempt to build. Um, so yeah, you know, as always, guys, I think it would be very good for Grape if we are as a community involved in these discussions. Um, you can see it's still super early. It's still super early, and you know, we're definitely one of we're definitely the only people outside of the Realm server discussing this.
Guys, one quick question, and I'll probably just drop the question and then leave. And I think Charis can then maybe send me a video link on like why this is a stupid question. Uh, but the emissions model right now is everybody gets Grape for just holding Grape. Um, why?
Uh, I don't believe that's
You mean?
correct. You have to be inside Discord and you have to be in Realms to.
Yeah, but why? Like why are we giving people Grape to do that?
So there are. I mean, that's a great thing you're saying right now, right? So there's in the tokenomics there's 600 million Grape. The idea is that that's given out in a form of recognition of governance and giving people more of a voice. Um, the easiest thing to do is say you continue to be active. You're receiving enough to keep your equal voice inflation, let's say. Um, but if you think that you know we don't have to have any emission. I mean, this 600 million exists. After that, if we decide as a community, hey, don't put it out ever, that's a choice. And I applaud you bringing up this as a question. You know why? Um,
Can I jump in as well? Maybe I can help out on why we're doing this. We called it initially a form of social mining, and we wanted to encourage people to actually be in the community and participate. If you notice, if you put the numbers down, you'll see that amount of we're just giving grape out is such a tiny amount, and the beautiful thing is we wanted for people to have a net gain in grape at least, if they entered the community, participated, but decided it was not for them. So the idea was get, and that's why the membership goes up by approximately 1% per epoch. So there is this incentive to actually stay in the community, stay in the governance, participate, and if it's not for you, then it did not become something that you actually missed out on anything.
Yeah, and I hear that, and I think I agree with that. And that was probably something that we came up with like maybe a year ago, right? And it's been almost a year since then. And I think like if we are answering that question, like we should think the reason we are giving out that token, is it still for just being on Discord, and
No, it
holding
changed.
the grape?
I
Yeah,
want
and
to stop there
if
because it
that
changed. It
yeah
became
if
realms, and then it also became you have to keep your governance vote inside.
yeah and the other thing, like I think you really said a really important thing, is that value was a very small amount, right? And then any like the decision point over there was like, hey, we are going to give this, and this is going to be a really small amount. If any future proposals we make, that has to probably stay in the realm of that thought, right? Hey, if we are going to reward people for doing that, that still needs to be an insignificant amount in the whole uh, like bigger picture. um is there like any thought like going forward in terms of like how much emissions is going out for actually participating, like holding skill roles, versus the amount of emissions that's going out for uh, being a part of Grape, and is that ratio needs to be tweaked, and stuff like
Yeah,
that?
100% that thought's happening because you just brought it up, bro. So I guess we are having that thought. And you know what? I mean, please continue expanding. But, what's really important is moving away from this question of, hey, I'll ask the group, is there any thought, to, hey, guys, I had this idea. Because you're part of this thought process. So please, I think the floor is yours on expanding here, because this is interesting. This hasn't been brought up before, but now we have that thought collectively.
Yeah, and the reason I brought this up is because I think CryptoPause is already going down that route, right? So saying, hey, we have this old emission model and we are slightly tweaking that. I think while we tweak that, it's good to go back and ask the fundamentals of like why we have that emission, and is the new emission model of whoever's proposing it as a part of a bounty or whatever, like are they checking off these things that we think are the ground principles of what the emissions are?
Yeah, the only thing I would hope, God's love, is to push you more into a direction of instead of rhetorically asking, like, are we thinking about this? Is to hear your opinion of how it would happen.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion is like very simple. Like I don't think people should get emissions, which is for not having a skill role, um, because I think that's where I see. Again, I have not been a part of it from a really long time, but where I see Grape right now, I feel so. And in my mind, it's a governance token. So who should get more governance power? The only people who should get more governance power are those who are actually governing, and the people who are doing work as a part of Grape. The only
Yeah,
place that it makes sense for me for everybody holding Grape to receive Grape is just to keep up with inflation. So there is new grape coming into circulation. So my grape, the value of the grape that I held yesterday should not go down because other people are doing work. So there should be a least little amount of grape I should just get as a part of inflation in the economy. Um,
Right,
so,
right. And
but
that's an important distinction,
yep, and
right?
then pegging that to somehow the amount of actual grape being given out as a part of skill force, I think is important because let's say skill force emissions go out, then yes, absolutely, the amount of grape that we're giving out as emissions can go out. But if let's say it goes down, then yeah, we should absolutely reduce the amount of emissions we should be giving out, and we shouldn't be giving out just because somebody already has, 200, thousand grape in their wallet.
I if I can, I just want to call this out. If you look at the initial incentive of trying to get people and get grape decentralized, right now we have over 13,000 holders of grape, right? That's a function of this model, I believe. And if you look at other projects across the ecosystem that are DAOs, quote unquote, um, they don't have as many holders as we do in terms of the amount of grape that's distributed across unique wallets, right? I think that that's one metric that's useful. Whether or not that's being productively applied to governance or not is something that we're addressing with tying additional emissions to staking on realms. So I think the incentive to stake on realms kind of puts that point in a different place where staking the grape on realms automatically answers the question that you're asking in terms of why give grape, right? We're giving grape for governance going forward, right? And whether or not you use it for voting or you use it for proposals or you use it in general, there are other avenues in which you can receive grape, right? In which you can go and stake it on Radium for liquidity. You'll receive grape there. That's why we don't reward anybody for grape there. We, as a community, not it's not something I decided alone. It's generally something that we came to consensus on. Um, and it was proposed, right? There was discussion around should somebody be rewarded for X type of contribution, and the answer is no, because they're getting grape in another way. Same thing with the Socian bonds. Same thing with orca pools, etc. When we talk about people holding grape, the incentive was to try and continue to incentivize them to hold grape and to increase the barrier to entry for those that aren't participating or aren't part of the community, that they get left behind if they're not actively holding, right? That was the initial model. I think with this next step, I, you're asking the right question. And I think the answer, or at least part of that solution, is coming out with this notion of you commit grape to realms and you'll get grape, right? Why you get that grape, I think it's kind of explanatory in the fact that you're incentivizing people to put it in realms so that it's locked there and part of the capability, or at least the available voting pool, the pool of grape that's being allocated towards voting, towards governance, which is really what grape is for. The only other alternative is grape backed tokens, right? Where it can be used for a conversion mechanism to get a GAN token. And I think some of that's still being explored. And you want to incentivize and give the ability for people within the community to be able to leverage their grape to be able to go and do that to some extent. So I don't know if that answers at least a piece of that question, but I do think if there's something more concrete, or at least uh, better outlined, that you think fits that bill of things that have the new world order of how things are moving forward, um, I would love to see a proposal or write up or anything that you have in terms of ideas around what you would do differently.
Well, yeah. Again, I'm trying to have that conversation, and to answer one of, like, I think Dean, you made a big point, an important point, which is like rather than making a rhetorical question, you wanted to hear an answer. But I think it is important. I think it is important to make those rhetorical questions. I think it is important to say what is the problem that we are trying to solve and not get lost in solving the problem. And before we start going deep into solving the problem, like being really like straightforward in the beginning and say, this is the problem we're trying to solve, and these are the things that these are the metrics we think that it should um, adhere to. I think it's important, and like it's okay to. I feel it's okay to call out those, even if like somebody might not have like an answer.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and I think there's this fine line between um, asking a question without thinking you're part of the authority to answer, right? Um, I do want to like think about what we've solved so far versus other DAOs and where we need to go moving forward. The plutocratic way that all the other DAOs work, we've created something that's kind of like a voter weigh-in, right? That instead of just holding, you also need to be in the Discord. And now we're putting on another layer saying, hey, you also need to be in the realms. The more we put these different layers on, it acts as a kind of proof of humanity. And I don't want to kind of get into this really big thinking, but what I believe is going to be the biggest problem for a lot of DAOs and for a lot of uh, organizations in crypto is proof of humanity, because there's going to be, just like everything gets gamed or gets botted, the similar thing is going to happen here. So as many times as we can add on more things for that proof of humanity, I think it's progress. um, I love that you brought up removing, or at least keeping to a minimum, the membership that is like, okay, I've done those two, you know, prerequisites of being in the Discord and being in Realms. Now I can, fuck off and just get Grape. I agree with what you're implying there. That doesn't serve us. I 100% do. Maybe we can uh, sync up over the next 2 days, because I would like to put forward an emissions proposal that makes sense. I'm not of the belief that we need to hold on to the mistakes of the past. So the emissions proposal I had given holds on to mistakes of the past. That's why I'm looking forward um, to coming up with a new one in the next 48 hours, that would completely try to abandon the mistakes of the past. So yeah, the I applaud what you've brought up, and really what we need to continuously think about is what are the actions we include with token holding that move it from being plutocratic to meritocratic. That has to be the lens, in my opinion, that we use. And if we can continuously use proof of humanity plus proof of contribution as that formula, I think that's the correct lens to use.
So you just dropped like a big word, right? Proof of humanity. And first of all, applaud you for dropping that. And I feel like if we are going to revise it, I think we should, kind of take that term and go ahead and say, like, this is a proposal based on proof of humanity. And if anybody else has a better proposal for proof of humanity, then let's bring that to the table. But absolutely applaud you for bringing that onto the table, and I propose using that as the anchor point for getting more ideas into that.
I look forward to hearing more about what that actually means, because I'm not clear. I associate it with another project that uses the same term. So really looking forward to hearing more about it.
It more or less is showing that this is a singular person, right? Not that this is a person, but that it's not somebody that's replicated themselves. It's a very difficult problem, especially with the growth of things like you've seen these like videos where you've got Tom Cruise and it's not even him.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so
Sleeping and all that stuff. And
yeah, you know, video still is probably the best version of proof of humanity, and I've discussed this, you know, with a number of you guys. Um, but yeah, you know, thank you for you know being on board with it, and let's talk about it more, you know, and you know these are the kind of conversations I live for.
Yeah, and the move to realms was the first step, right? So, um,
agreed.
Okay, are we good to move on to the next topic?
yeah,
What is our
actually,
next topic?
we have Grape membership NFT and also Grape marketplace, both topics that are important.
Yeah.
And I'd like for us to not lose focus on that. So I dropped them there. So maybe we can decide whether to give a brief update on those or go ahead with oh, what's love you left the stage. So otherwise I'd said that we could move on to the bounty update. So either way. Oh, there's a riptide. Then maybe.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, yeah, with the Grape membership NFT, obviously I gave a bit of an update on Tuesday's DAO call, and for those that weren't there, the latest on that was I had made a summary, written that up on Monday, and CryptoPause reviewed it. It was pretty much good to go, but I had some stuff to add to it, and also we were saying that it'd be good to get a call with some of the key people that have been giving feedback for the Grape NFT. So the people there would be that, like the likes of say myself. I know Rustin Mott has contributed some good ideas, and there's a couple other people like say off the top of my head I can't think. Well, I know Tacky Souls actually had some great ideas on a dynamic NFT. But also the idea was that we'd also should have that conversation with some of the developers, and I was meant to reach out with them and, as I said, update that summary, but things got away from me, so I haven't moved either of those forward just yet. But I know that we have a couple of the key developer guys here at the minute listening to the call, Kirk and Billy, and most of the key people as well who are actually proposing different ideas of the Grape membership as well, NFT of what we could do there. So I don't know if we could come to a suitable time amongst ourselves here and now that might suit the majority of people. Like for instance, I myself can say tomorrow it's a bank holiday here, so I'm very free tomorrow, pretty much all day. Or I can work around it tomorrow and at most times. So I don't know if anyone else is free tomorrow at all to discuss things, or if I should just get the summary out of the way and then we can try and organize it again. I see Taki saying tomorrow could work. So I don't know if Billy and Kirk would be free at some stage tomorrow. Billy or Kirk. The idea there discussing what kind of utility we could realistically achieve for a Grape NFT, because there have been various different ideas in terms of a metaverse space or something that might even interact with Grape tokens, be it in a dynamic way. So Kirk's saying he's quite busy.
I see Kirk says he's going to be busy, so we can summarize everything and share it with him, I guess.
Yeah, can do. So yeah, it might be best to try and get some of the feedback from the working some drops. It might be best to get the feedback from the devs before we really push forward and say this is the solution that we want to work towards. But I will definitely update that summary and add some of the examples and other suggestions that CryptoPaws had.
Yep. And I think just to recap, a summary for anybody to comment on it technically would just be enumerated in a list, a bullet list, and provide ample explanation to what we mean by something so that they can give us feedback. Maybe I didn't even think about that before, but probably worthwhile.
Yeah, good thing is we don't have a deadline, so and I see why
Good and bad.
Important. Yeah. And I see why it's important to have direct input from a dev maybe on certain topics, because it's that of an early stage where yeah, basically directions are quite open. So yeah. Maybe after the drop. So is it a little drop, or oh, there's a spoiler.
Looks like
Wow,
Kirk's being
teasing.
mean, saying he's dropping pandas. That's just cruel.
Be very, very quiet. This is the type of hype we need more about. Like we were talking about how we promote the Grape NFT marketplace a little bit more, and using the recent sale of the monkey and trying to get the message out there. This looks like another one of those things that we're going to want to push.
That wasn't on the marketplace.
It wasn't? I thought it was listed on the marketplace.
It was
No,
elsewhere.
it was. So this is what happened. We saw that Magic Eden at one point was listing anything on Auction House. So we said, okay, if we list it on Grape.art, it'll show up on Magic Eden. And then somebody pointed out that generally monkeys don't really sell also on Magic Eden. And then Magic Eden stopped showing Auction House. So, that put us in a situation where we saw a decreasing price in, the floor. And then, the only visibility the sale would have would be on Grape.art. Now, if the sale had happened on Grape.art, that would have sent 2 more SOL to our treasury. So as the NFT Council agreed to list it directly on the SMB marketplace, that's where the sale happened. I'm sorry. What did you guys hear? Did you guys hear that?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay. Just want to make sure. Because yeah.
Everyone is looking what Kirk is writing, so basically waiting for the next drop.
This man commands an audience. Wow.
Wow.
That's an insta ban if I've ever seen one.
Wow. Me there.
Okay, I mean, since we got 15 minutes left, is there anything that priority that we need to discuss?
Do you guys want to discuss bounties?
Sure, I think that'd be good.
All right. So a couple of things about bounties. So one of the first things I was thinking about in terms of when we engage bounties was um, how do we make it um, spam resistant and also pretty accessible in terms of somebody being able to submit a bounty. Um, so having it in discourse definitely, I think, serves that purpose of it being, spam resistant in terms of it's a little bit more effort going into discourse and adding something, and you need to have um, a role to be able to do that. But the other thing is like, how do we also make it possible for people to do that um, a bit easier? So one idea was to add a person or a layer in between somebody requesting a bounty and it actually um, then being added somewhere. Um, so I added like again, this is like um, DevNet versions of stuff, but I added a form that people can go and then submit their bounty requests. Um, I'm right now just manually looking at it to see if it makes sense. And then thank you Taki for the idea. Is if it makes sense, I'm going to um, the HQ bounties HQ channel and then adding a thread to discuss that. And that actually played really well into like my second idea of like what we should do with bounties is apart from just the person adding the bounty and the person who it wants to be assigned to. I wanted the community to have a good discussion around it, because somebody else might have had a similar idea or might have things in that bounty that they think they want to add value to. So I want to give that extra stage for people to talk about it. My hope is as we get in like interaction in the chat for that, the person who like there could be a person who actually requested the bounty, but somebody else might come in and add a lot of value to that request, and then like both those people become like now the owners of that bounty and get whatever um, praise or grape for raising that. um, so that again, really thankful for Taki for setting that up. I think having it as a separate thread inside um, uh, the bounty HQ channel solves that purpose, and I think we have seen some of that discussion. Um, again, I'm not really good at um, uh, you know Discord stuff, but if we can add more visibility into, hey, a new thread has been added to bounty HQ, um, that would be nice, because right now I'm kind of requesting anybody um, who wants to create a bounty to say who else you think should participate, and I'm going and tagging them. But if there was a way to like just have that as a minor announcement for people who might be interested in knowing about bounties, um, and then they can jump in and add their 2 cents and add value to it, that would be nice. um, oh, okay, yeah, so he just mentioned that. So yeah, so that's the idea is like how do, like if you dial it back, like how do you measure engagement, right? That seems like a good place to go and see, hey, somebody might not come up with the idea, but hey, are you engaging with it? And are you contributing to what actually Grape is producing as a part of that? um, so those are the two kind of like overview ideas of overview things about the bounty. Any questions on that before I kind of do a little bit of a deep dive into one bounty, because I think that will help us go forward in terms of like some of the discussions that we'll have in like these bounty threads. Okay. So one there was a proposal um by, I think it's L1, or is it just one? OneSoul, about a request by OneSoul about a Grape NFT bot. And um, if you guys haven't had a chance to take a look at that, I don't know, Taki, if there's a way we can like open it up for everybody to take a look. But um, it came down to a really important discussion, which says, hey, we as a Grape like should even do something, and I think that's a real good discussion. It was a request about creating an NFT bot, and I think a lot of people had opinions about whether that's a good idea or a bad idea. And you know, there's definite there's really good arguments to go for it, really good arguments to go against it. But one thing that we kind of have to decide as a community. So if there are differences of opinion on whether that particular request is a bounty, what's the best way for us to proceed? Like, should we still go ahead and create that as a bounty as a part of Grape, or is that then, hey, do we have some sort of a vote or some sort of a next level to see if we as Grape support that bounty? So um, I'll kind of open it up to you guys for any inputs on that. If anyone's still awake.
Definitely.
Lot to take in, bro.
No, but I think it's the right thing. Like, hey, how do we get more people to contribute? And there is contribution, and now once there is contribution, there's definitely going to be difference of opinion. And we as Grape, like, what do we do about these bounties that have difference of opinion? Um, and like, should we like, is there concern about that being a bounty raised by Grape, right? So um,
Yeah,
that is
definitely.
that is something that we have to address as a part of this. It's a evolving thing. If anybody have ideas, drop it in Grape chat. Happy to discuss there. But that's a really interesting thing from what I've learned this last week. The other thing that I kind of am learning as a part of it is the actual valuation of these bounties. And so far, I've seen bounties being requested in Grape as well as US dollars. And I think this is an important part to let everybody know that that is a flexibility. Like, you do not have to only make requests that are um, bounties for Grape. You can absolutely come in and say, this thing's really great and it's worth $10,000. And thank you so much, Dean, for making that request, because that really like kind of opened my eyes and was like, whoa, okay, all right. There are like two different levels that you can think of when you're creating these bounties. So that is another shout out from myself, is when you're creating bounties, yes, absolutely, they could be for Grape, or you could just come and say like, this thing is really valuable, and we should be paying $10,000 for it. So um, those are the things from my side in the bounty world. And again, you know, like for example, there was a bounty which already had all the information that we needed, and I was like, yeah, okay, I don't think this probably needs a lot of discussion. Let's go ahead and create it in discourse. Um, and that I don't know if he still created it, but so that's kind of all we have in terms of bounty so far. Let's see what the next week has for us in store.
It's definitely a great start, and you did excellent work there, I think. And I have a look at it on per case basis. So if there certainly will be bounties that are questionable, or where we think maybe it's too much or too little. So I wouldn't worry right now, because getting things started is the most important part, and I think you really did a great job there.
I, I remember last week we had said that, the DAO board would prioritize looking at the bounties and then, talking about what state they're in. I know that didn't happen today. It is important that that happens. So, you know, as we're starting to get more, refined and understanding our structures better, creating these structures, I think that there has to be some things that we have to have an expectation that we stick to. Is there any reason why we wouldn't want to prioritize the bounties to be discussed um, on the next DAO call? That way, they can be moved into some sort of more, concrete. Like, yep, this is one we want to push out to the world. Like,
Yeah, that's the idea, basically. I made an extra category. I talked about that in the DAO board call before the actual DAO call. I think it's a good idea to have it on the agenda for any call, and I'll definitely will talk to Godslov about what specifically should be focused on, and what should be highlighted. But that's the idea behind it. Basically, the agenda is right now structured. We have first the brief updates, then the more meaty topics, and then focus on bounty, and
So
then
just so that,
things that are open.
so are you actually suggesting talking about the bounty, like a particular bounty? Is that the question?
The idea, it could be, yes, in order to maybe explain something that needs explanation, or whether or to inform people that there is a bounty. I think we need to think about what we want to highlight, but more importantly, we also need to think about specifically when it's running a bit longer. There will be bounties that don't have any traction, or we need to maybe revisit the more fundamental ideas regarding the bounty, and such things. So basically, I'd envision during the call some form of like 10 or 20 minutes, maybe 10 or 15 minutes allocated specifically to bounty topics in each call, so that we stay on top of that.
Okay. I'm a little confused. So when we are talking about bounties, and I, if I understood you correctly, do you want to talk about what we want to do with bounties, or the process around bounties, or do you want to talk about a specific bounty, or some sort of, hey, there have been 15 bounties this week, or two of them have been completed, like stats like that? Is that what you're looking for?
The former would be more of an agenda topic or agenda item for the middle part. So um, when it comes to like allocations and how we want to structure them, but at the end, I want to specifically I thought of either highlighting bounties or talking about um, things of,
Bounty of the week?
yeah, maybe something like that. So yeah,
Uh,
because we need to figure out on how to talk about things, but I want to keep them fresh, and also that people know that there are new bounties.
yeah. Yeah, and yeah, I think that is the problem I think Taki just helps us solve, right? So being able to say, hey, there's a new bounty, have some sort of an announcement, opening up for everybody to, jump in and, put their opinion in there. I feel it's more important for people to get in there and voice their opinion when they have time, um, than, to, talk about it in this meeting.
Yeah, it's not
Um,
about maybe the exchange of ideas regarding a specific bounty. It's more of a reminder, and it's basically what we can see it's happening on Realms. If we address that something is on Realms and something is live during a DAO call, people interact and do specific things. So
okay.
it's that's more of the idea here, because we don't have actually the time to go into detail for
Yeah.
any specific bounty.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Like making a list and saying, I think the way you put it out, the DAO call agenda, we can say, okay, the new bounties for this
Yeah.
week are, um, yeah, okay, makes sense. I agree.
Hey guys, I maybe I'm not understanding, but I shared an article we had put together for the first bounties we ever did, for the first grants we ever did. Um, I'm gonna. I think this is as concise as I can ask this. At what point do we issue another one of these articles? Like, when should I expect that someone will create one, or that I'll be asked to create? Like, when does that happen, or does that never happen? We're not doing this ever again.
I think that depends on what kind of bounty ideas we have and what kind of bounties people propose. But sure, I can totally see that um, as a way to also promote bounties.
I'm gonna ask first. I mean, it sounds like Dean. I have no answer for you. Um,
A
we
specific one, right? Yeah.
like I think we need to force ourselves towards a workflow that leads to us communicating to the broader ecosystem. This is a bounty. This is a grant we have. And today I think we've now started a process where people say, this is my proposal. I'm proposing that this needs to be made. That workflow needs to get to a point where we say, and this is the DAO board's responsibility, yep, this is a bounty we need, versus, okay, that's a great idea, let's let it culminate a bit more. But we need to continuously have it as a deliverable, that from all of the ideas we've received, at least one of them we're going to say, yep, we champion this, we're going to move this into the grants, the bounties, article, if you will. Like, every single one of those bounties got completed. The only thing we haven't done is the locking, unlocking, and the vote. But everything else got completed. Right when it gets into that format, we have a high faith that it's going to get completed. Now, Athens DAO is coming up in 3 weeks. Uh, it would be great if Grape had, and there are 25,000, 50,000, whatever the number is, worth of grants from Grape. But there has to be a workflow that leads us there. And I believe that that's one of the DAO board's responsibilities.
Dean, are you asking about taking a bounty that gets created internally, and what's the workflow needed for that to then become a external facing bounty?
Yeah, I think that anything in USDC, even Grape, there's no reason why it should stay within Grape, right? This is a chance for us to not only get more exposure, but it's also a chance for us to get more people involved. Um, I think that when Pavel-san was already a member, but once we had that MeanFi Grant, we got to get more involved with him, and I think it's a great way for us to communicate what we're doing to the broader ecosystem. Now, if we want to make the decision, hey, we're never going to do those external grants again, or you know
No,
what,
no,
we're
no.
not ready to
No,
do them, that's fine. But
I mean, we do
I
have
want
the.
clarity on, should I expect that should I expect that the DAO board will say, okay, these are the grants, these are the bounties that we should present at Athens DAO? My expectation before we had this conversation was yes. Now I'm starting to get the sense that these are going to be
But it's
just
a good point that
suggestions
you're
without
making,
structure.
especially regarding Athens DAO. Um, I see it like that. We now have a discourse board where we collect all the bounties, and there is updates there, but it's not even running for a week. So, in order to have a rough idea of what we can expect and what bounties get created and how we communicate them, um, I think it needs either a bit more time or we need to commit on a specific date to have something ready for a specific event like Athens DAO. So uh, under those circumstances, I'd say, okay, if we want to have something ready for then, we should focus on that. Otherwise, it's something that we need to, see, because I definitely think that this will be a format that we will have in the future. But right now, it's like 4 or 5 days that we have it in discourse and get a grasp of what bounties are there and how we could.
Yeah, I agree with you. It hasn't been thought about. And I would insist that the DAO board put this at the top of the agenda for next talk, because this needs to get to completion. It's irrelevant what the grants are about. It really is, because at the end of the day, we've got a treasury. We have all these ideas of what needs to be built. Saying we won't know our process until we know what's being asked to be built, I think is a cop out. Uh, we know that this is a process we want to do. We want to deploy our treasury resources to have things built in DAO tooling. We know that. And now we've built a nice process of curating it from our community. I fear that if we delay tasking someone in our community, and to my belief, that's the DAO board, if it needs to be done, and maybe everything else has been a distraction, that's fine. I I don't understand why we wouldn't put this at the top of priorities, because if we do not show people who are spending their time to draft these grants that they will actually turn into something, we will burn any, like, I think I'm making myself understood on my concern here, which is, hey, we want your ideas, but then when they come in, we don't know what to do with them. That's what I'm hearing right now. And I I want to make sure that next time, because it's become clear that the DAO board doesn't really talk other than during these times. So let's make sure that the DAO board is talking about this to completion on Tuesday. That way we have an exact understanding of when the next article will come out for the grants.
Dean, can I ask a question? And this is probably coming from a place of ignorance. Um, in terms of, like, when something is already put on discourse as a bounty, you feel that not enough Grape members feel that they can start working on it? Because my assumption was, once something goes on discourse as a bounty, it's just now up to Grape members to then go and say, oh, there's a bounty up there, let me start working on it. And once, either I can let them know that I'm working on it, or once I'm done, I'm going to go and say, okay, I've finished it, whoever wants to review it for me. Is
So
that
yeah, Yeah, let's imagine the bounty I had put out. Instead of me putting 10,000 USDC, I had put 1,000,000. At what point does it get course corrected?
Well, first of all, that's why we added this intermediate layer, right? Is to have that discussion to come up with that value. And
Right.
once we come up with the
So when
value,
is that? What part in the process is that? Like, at what point does it get correct valuation?
like I think I would give it a week. I would give it a week to come up with an evaluation. Um, and then once we have a evaluation, we would put it on discourse. And my understanding was once it's on discourse, anybody can start working on it. Like there's nothing that stops anybody who can see those discourse posts to stop working us to not work on a grant out there or a bounty out there. I didn't think that you needed to come and say I'm working on this.
No, it's not that I'm working on this. But right now we have a process where let's take the bounty I put together, just because
Yep.
I'm very aware of it. If I had set it to a
Yeah, yeah,
million,
yeah, yeah.
if I had set it to 1,000,000 USDC, which is ludicrous, at
Yeah.
what point is it set to, and who is deciding, saying, okay, this is a bounty? Like, one, I could have asked for a bounty that no one in Grape wants. So someone needs to say, this is for sure a bounty we want, and this is the amount. Who is it that makes that decision, and when is that made?
So I'll answer your first question. Like, if you go in and say it's $1 million bounty, right? I would probably be the first person to tell you that this is not $1 million bounty, right? And then I would probably tag people who I think might be better suited to give you a value for that, which was very similar to what happened, right? Already. Um, and again, I didn't have a value, so I'm like, okay. And you already provided the judges in there, so thank you for that. And I just tag them and say, hey, can we recalibrate this, right? And then once we have a value, I'm guessing in that chat, all of us will come to a conclusion that this makes sense. If you look at that chat that we had about the DAO role job, right? We had a little bit of conversation. We talked about what it should be worth, and then I'm like, yeah, okay, this makes sense. Let's put it on discourse. Um, and I was hoping that we'll have that same discussion about your bounty. We'll come to a consensus, and then we'll say, okay, let's put it on discourse. And once it's on discourse, my assumption was like anybody in Grape can do it. I understand your second point of like when does it become um, available to everybody outside. I would actually play a little bit of a devil's advocate and say we should incentivize the Grape to be a member of Grape to see those bounties and be the first to see it and start working on it before we make it external. But if there is a consensus in the chat about the bounty saying, this is just outside the realms of anybody we think in Grape can do it, and we should just go straight external to that, I'm fine with that too. But I would want to I would say if there's a workflow, it would be make a request, we discuss it in Grape. Taki is now going to open it up to everybody, so anybody who has access in Grape can talk about it. We come to a consensus. The moment it goes on discourse, people can start working on it. We can review it, saying, hey, this has been a week since it's been on discourse, nobody has worked on it. Or we can come up with a workflow which says after 1 week, anything that has a US dollar value to it, it automatically becomes external. Those kind of things I think make sense absolutely to me. But I do want to add a little bit of incentive to Grape members to be the first people to see it.
Yeah, I think my concern is that, and I'm looking at the live chat here. There's, I was under the impression that we would have some strategic direction on these bounties and choose which we prioritize as a group. I think it's wrong, Taki's saying, the sub DAOs should go to the board. Shouldn't the board be saying, you know what, from all of these bounties, this is the one we think should be a priority from a strategic point of view? Forget, because again, it's not like you guys told Kirk, hey, Kirk, we need the Grape Marketplace now to have a bigger gallery view. He's constantly doing stuff anyway, right? It's not like he now needs to go and check in with you guys on all these bounties. What at some layer, the DAO board has to have a deliverable. And I don't want to be sounding like I'm picking on anybody. That's why I just want clarity. Right now, it seems like we all throw bounties in there, and then what? Like at some point, someone, and this is why I think it's the DAO board, says from all of these bounties, we think 1, 2, and 3, those are the ones we're going to prioritize, right? That's my opinion. Somebody pointed out that there's a bounty, the Grape Research Tool, that's been there for 13 days. It's had, I think, no responses. What are we communicating to that community member? That if you put the effort to put together the bounty, what happens? There needs to be a point at which somebody is tasked, and I don't know if it's the bounty master, but I think discussing the prioritization of bounties as a group like this is a great setting for us to do it, where we say, okay, these are the bounties. Like if we had spent most of this call going through the bounties and agreeing, hey, these are the ones that are priority, these are the ones that aren't for us, strategically, where it's, again, Grapes developers are developing what they also love to develop or they're interested in working on. There's going to be a different vision and approach from the DAO board, where they can deploy capital to the broader ecosystem, right? Where, you know what, let's say that both Billy and Kirk look at the AlphaBot bounty and they're like, that's stupid, useless. But all of the grapers agree that we need it. That's a great version where the DAO board would say, you know what, we've looked at this AlphaBot bounty. It's needed. Let's make it in USDC and let's communicate it to the world. There's no point in that process, though, that I think it's the onus on the developer sub DAO to communicate it. Maybe the onus is on the alpha researcher. But again, it would, I think, be incorrect to have a sub DAO decide what is our overall priority. So I've communicated my opinion on this. I think that this is a DAO board responsibility. I think that the agenda should next time heavily lean towards going through these and evaluating which ones are our priority.
Dean, another aspect of the whole thing that I think I, at least in my mind, is not clear, but we need to be a little bit more explicit about. So when we are saying that this bounty has a 5K USDC, and I'll call it out in coins, just for clarity, bounty to it, those go in as funding approval needed. When does that approval, when and how does that funding approval happen? And isn't that an opportunity to then add visibility and bring the treasury board and the DAO board into the mix?
Yeah, right now, I don't see any part where the DAO board is part of the process, because I hear that, okay, bounties go in. My question is, at what point does someone, and that's where I think it's the DAO board, say, this bounty, yes, we want it, yes, at this price, yes, it goes out. Are you suggesting that there's another model?
No, like if let's say you put in your request, right, and let's say we want to put out a bounty for 5K, right? And um, the 5K USDC needs to be approved, right? That's what it means by pending
Correct.
approval. So who is going to approve it, and what's the process to approve it? I'm not clear on
Well,
that.
Yep,
I,
I'm in the same
I
place.
well, I think it's really important that we establish that as the key determinant of being able to push a bounty forward is whether or not there's funding for it, right?
Yeah.
And I think prioritizing them, I 100% agree. I think the discussion on whether or not we put a bounty on the grant proposals is something that has to be a strategic initiative that's bigger than you know. It, I think there's a gravitas to the types of bounties we might want to put out to the community or to the broader ecosystem, not just Grape, versus that. But I think the core problem, and it's more of a challenge than a problem, is identifying how we make sure if we're saying there's a bounty, the reward that we're saying is there for the bounty is actually confirmed beforehand.
Yeah.
We can't have a bounty floating around that says you're going to make 5,000 USDC and oh, our DAO did not approve it.
Yep.
So getting the bounties from the place where it's prioritized, yes, but I think the next step is to make sure the funding allocations, there's a process for that first, and then
So
promoting those bounties through tools like Strata Bounty, if we want to use Strata Bounty, or however it's going to be allocated so that it can be worked on to the broader ecosystem. If we want to use Discourse, if whatever the tools we want to use to try and get the message out and define it in a way that somebody has trust that if they complete the bounty, they'll get rewarded for it. I don't think that's an issue in general. That's why I'm not even discussing it.
so okay, so in my mind there were two ways we could go about it, right? So we could put it very explicitly saying this is pending approval. So the person picking it up knows that this is not being funded if they wanted to pick it up. Or
Right.
what you're suggesting is don't put it out there at all unless we have secured funding for it, right? And
Or
and
at
I think
least we
that's
confirm that the pool that we have allocated for bounties has enough to be able to cover the bounty reward, right? Right now,
yep,
there's a specific squads that's been set up.
right.
The first bounty that we initiated allocated 400,000 grape to that bounty squad's pool for us to be able to leverage. So as long as there's grape there, we can use grape accordingly. But to top it back up, there needs to be a proposal to continue topping up against the backdrop of which bounties are being proposed and whether or not the rewards are um, amenable or agreeable for everybody to say, yeah, that's worth 5,000 USDC. Now we have to put a realms proposal. Do we have to do that every time we see a bounty, or should we be doing that as a recurring process to fund and allocate to the squads? I think that piece right there answers a portion of the problem. It still doesn't address the prioritization schedule, but it's an important factor in the steps that need to happen in order for us to say. Just real quick, God's love, you had mentioned and asked me what funding meant in the template that I had created,
Yeah,
and that
pretty
that was
much.
that was precisely why I said
Yeah,
pre-funded versus pending, is because who wants to work on a bounty that they're not sure if the reward is valid yet?
yep.
I don't know, you know.
So, Dean, would it make sense to then use either this meeting or another meeting to then discuss pending approval bounties and prioritize them and say, okay, there might be n number of bounties that are pending approval, but we then look at them holistically and then just move a few of them forward. Um, and that like artificially prioritizes them, if that kind of makes sense.
Um, I don't understand.
So
God.
so right now, let's say there's if I remember correctly, there's 250K grape that's already pre-approved for the bounty system, right? So as requests come in, I've been assuming that since there's already 250K grape, any requests come in and it's below 250K grape in total, let's keep adding them to discourse because
Would you
it's
mind?
basically just
Would you mind instead that we take an existing example? So here I'm pasting it now in the Grape chat. So this is a bounty that was put at 13 days. This is a feature request. It qualifies as a bounty. There's been no input, right? The worst thing we can have as a community is not recognize somebody talking or somebody putting effort. Like, at what point does who give any feedback on this? That I want to understand that first. At what point and who gives feedback to what point is put here?
So that this is kind of like when it depends upon when this started, right? And I can go back and start pulling in the things that have already been in discourse before I ended up creating the Discord channel. The idea was this would not go up on discourse till we have had the discussion in Discord as to, you know, whether this makes sense or not, right?
Can Right, and I think just to clarify God's love, I think the question is who, right? And
Yeah.
let me take a step back for a moment to remind everybody that the squad's wallet that I just referenced is not only controlled by the DAO board. We still need to get the owners of the leaders of the sub DAOs that are qualified to release any of the DAO rewards from that squad. So I would expect that there need to be a committee familiar with the bounties that are also the ones that are deciding whether or not the funds are released on the rewards basis, right? So I would say it's the same group of individuals that have to decide whether or not the bounty is worthy of the reward to release the reward from the squad's wallet.
Yeah, that's what I thought we set up the Scots wallet. Yeah, right.
Correct. Correct. So I think we need to rally the troops, so to speak, around that notion and have the same individuals that are going to be aligned with releasing funds from the squad's wallet also be the people that have their 2 cents, excuse me, 2 grapes put in on approving bounties. The release of funds from the treasury is a community task for the reward. The release of a bounty into the community or into the broader ecosystem is one that we need to tailor to a specific set of individuals so those decisions can happen more frequently. And having one person allocated to be able to prioritize and identify them is one thing, which is the bounty master. But having the right input to say, yes, this is a bounty that we, is a million grape too much for this sub DAO leader X, sub DAO leader of the development team? Do you think that this is worth a million grape, right? Is this evaluated as something that should be a bounty? Blah, 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 right? Whatever the criteria are, we have to have those individuals be part of the same conversation because they're the ones that also need to approve the transactions when it comes out. 5 individuals effectively right now, the quorum on that bounty pool is 5 individuals. So we have more than 5 individuals capable of being able to help us make the determination depending on how we classify the bounty. If it's a development bounty, I would expect we'd ask the development team or the development sub DAO what they think. If it's a research bounty, research. If it's creative, creative, right? Or content. And I think that is the quickest way for us to get to a place where we have consensus, we have expertise, right? Subject matter expertise. We don't want this to be too long of a duration in terms of the tail, in terms of somebody submits a bounty, there's no communication. The DAO board should facilitate coordinating communication around it, offering up whether or not they think it's strategically aligned with Grape's vision, and getting feedback from the subject matter experts within the ecosystems for us to move forward. And they're also going to be the ones that are going to be liable for helping us make sure that the bounty reward is released in the DAO. So it's kind of a proactive process that way. Hey, there's a bounty. You said it was good. We said it was good. And now the bounty was completed. We need to release the reward. I think that summarizes it. So the whoever the sub DAO leaders are in the DAO board. And
Yeah,
I
and I
thought
think
we had
you
outlined that
said
in
a
the
very you said a very important thing too, which is the DAO board needs to coordinate this. And I totally agree. When 5 of the 6 current signers are DAO board people, yeah, 100. Like the discourse area is the DAO board's area. and then you guys together collectively have to say, okay, these are the bounties we kind of like. Let's reach out to Kirk, see what Kirk says. Kirk has just shared that he's like, yeah, I've already talked about this. I've shared. I think it's a great one. So
Right.
he's now said his. He is one of those signers. The fact that, I mean, I've only heard your voice on this. Die Night's off, but really, this is a DAO board responsibility. If it's not, let's say that now.
I
Um,
thought, Dean, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I thought we had communicated this in the beginning, and maybe that communication wasn't clear enough at the time. But I think it just fell to the wayside, and it hasn't had enough traction. I think we need to move forward on implementing what we said.
Yeah, it's clearly a DAO board because we have the squads that facilitates the transaction in the end. So I mean, it's natural that we should be responsible. I think what's
Oh,
Mhm.
sorry. I also didn't want to diminish the importance of the bounty master role, right? Because that is the input that the DAO board is going to help make the decision, right? It's summarizing those bounties and being able to identify the key things that we need to do and helping us coordinate those bounties, right?
Yeah,
That's the DAO
and what
core
would
role.
be awesome is that it's communicated before we get on the call that the DAO board has decided and said these are the ones we like, we don't like, but let's not use this time to now hear you guys coordinating.
We're not. I don't think that's the case. I think we need to establish off-chain, off-call
Yeah,
communications that just
we're in
proactively
total
work so
agreement
that we
there.
don't have to have this discussion again.
In total agreement there. So it sounds like the process, and I just want to hear that we're in agreement on this. That way we don't have to repeat this a week later. Right now, God's Love DAO has done a fantastic job of getting and inspiring people to submit. And you guys saw, Pontus, I applaud you for being very real about this. It is, um, I'm trying to think of a word that's not too severe, but it feels bad when someone doesn't acknowledge it. It is the DAO board's responsibility to acknowledge it. So next call and between here and the next call, I think it is the responsibility of the DAO board to respond back to these submissions and say, you know what, I really like it. Maybe it needs this much grape, and then reach out to the subsequent sub DAO leaders. I applaud you on this, Dimitri. That he's gone the moment I applaud him. You guys were evidence for that. I applauded him. Uh, it is the coordination is on the DAO board side. Um, yeah.
Can I just say something real quick? So I think from what I've seen, like in terms of bounties being raised, I think there's still not a clear process in place, because I think that God's love, you're suggesting that you believe that once a bounty got raised on discourse, it should be pre-approved and set and good to go. Whereas I feel like that a lot of bounties, or like several of the bounties that have been raised, especially the earlier ones, the example is the Pontes one and the Alpha Bot Reaction kind of one, they have been raised on discourse without approval and discussion. And I thought the process was that they would have that discussion on discourse. It would then go through the motions and go for approval. At the minute, it seems that the process hasn't been nailed, and that's partly because we had like let's push bounties, and then it was like we also need someone to be a DAO core member uh, looking after these bounties, and they've come in after, and now we're trying to scramble to kind of catch back up or figure out what is the process, and it's still not
Exactly.
very clear. So, for instance, I would say on discourse, it's not actually communicated that we should really raise it in the bounty section of Discord instead of on discourse. Then go through some of that discussion on Discord, and then have some sort of agreement, maybe push it to the DAO board and sub DAO leaders to give it approval, and then push it to discourse to say this is an active bounty for people. So like these are things I don't feel have been clearly stated, and there's still like a little bit of a lack of clarity on the process there from my point of view. Because speaking from the research side, there's two active bounties that are directly going to affect researchers potentially, and we've been discussing them about what do we do with them, who do we talk to about them, how do we move them forward, and also saying, well, actually, we can't really do much more until we get clarity on these, but we don't know the process there. So I'm just raising that.
Yeah. So yeah, I absolutely agree that we are learning the process and refining the process. So that is an acknowledgement. I think that is true. Like we called out that this needs to be improved.
Can
We are raising some ways that we can facilitate this better, but we are learning this as we go. We might learn some things that are not good or something that are not optimal, and then steer our direction that way. But I think we are in the process of learning what's the best way to manage this. I agree.
I just quickly reiterate something, because I think it's important. The purpose of discourse is to have proposals discussed there, right? That was initially
Yeah.
the purpose of it, and also gaining quorum, or at least some type of semblance on being able to put a vote to certain things. There's a voting mechanism in discourse right now. I think if we want to simplify this as much as possible, we have to treat bounties the same way we treat proposals, and input a voting mechanism on the bounty proposal for acceptance or denial from the DAO, right? And have a similar process, like I said, where we just have people being able to engage, vote on whether or not they agree or disagree, comment on whether or not they disagree with something, if it's about the reward, whatever the case is. Simplified as much as possible. People are familiar with discourse, and the individuals that I expect are going to participate in this would be familiar with discourse. We don't want to overextend or have them have to do too much, quote unquote, right? This is supposed to be a simplified process as much as possible, to being able to get creation, validation, let it forward, right? Get it through the pipeline, and then find a way to make sure everybody's aware of where those proposals are being posted. Right now, Discourse is the easiest place to do it, and it's also the best place to do it because it's visible to everybody. If you're not a Grape member, you can see it. And if you're a Grape member, you have the ability to communicate, create it. I think we should just keep it as simple as we do our proposals. Communicate proposals, communicate bounties in discourse, discussion there, and voting there, and then releasing and allowing it to be put active or live is a function of us finding a way to make sure that status is something state of bounty is tracked in discourse in a very simple way if possible. I don't necessarily want to overcomplicate it, and I don't want to belittle the process, and I understand that we've done a lot of thinking around it, but I think, if our DAO proposal model currently works this way, I think we should just replicate the same model, move forward, and try and leverage what tools we already have at our disposal, instead of having disparate discussions. And then you can reference the link from discourse in Discord in the Bounty HQ channel, and have the discussion there if you really want to try and expand it and go beyond whatever else needs to be addressed or discussed in real time. That's my two grapes, guys.
Uh, just a clarification, the active status thing that you mentioned, that's a to do, right? That's not something that we have right now.
Correct. It's whether or not you can launch the bounty for it to actually be worked on. Like, looking at the list of bounties that are in discourse right now, which ones are capable of actually being put out and run? I think that's the real discussion that we're having here. It's just which one of those is actually an active bounty right now and has the funding to move forward. And
That's
it's
a
been
good point.
approved by a sub DAO.
That is a good point. That is definitely a reset for me. In terms of like where I was thinking in terms of the existing process was. So thanks for calling that out. My assumption definitely was once things are on discourse, it's worth it's like okay to go and work on it. But I actually like the idea of having a status, and if we have that, and then anything that's active can be worked on, sounds like a good plan. I'll definitely need help in setting all of that up.
I'm here.
Um, yep.
Hit me up.
Yep. But that sounds good. But the other point you mentioned was, how does something get into this course. Um, and I think one of your ideas was starting point being discourse, and then it can be moved to a thread on Discord. Um, that is fine with me too, as a mechanism to have people engage. My only concern was that um, people might be hesitant to go to discourse and add something, while if you have the ability to just make a request and then have a chat, make sure there's another person who helps you through the process, because I have seen that being a concern. I myself had a concern.
Right.
Have somebody work with you to kind of make sure you got everything, your ducks in order, and then it goes on discourse. Felt like a better way to get more engagement from the users, or the Grape members.
Yeah, I don't want to prevent anybody from having the discussion. If somebody wants to go to Bounty HQ and start doing their recruitment process for getting somebody together and formalizing it and then putting it on discourse, that's fine. I'm just saying any discussion that we are prioritizing bounties should be something that's in discourse, right? And anything where we're going to be putting up a proposal to release funds from the treasury is going to have to tie back to something that's documented and clarifying why is that allocation being requested, or why in particular is anything being asked for bounties if there are no bounties documented somewhere. That's all. And opening that up and making it possible for people to document it formally is just a quick win for us to move forward and identify status. I don't think there's necessarily a problem with that process. I think there's just a communication breakdown. Just trying to ultra simplify it as much as possible. I understand it's complex, but as much as we simplify it, the better I think it gets for everybody.
Yeah, definitely. And sorry for being so silent. I'm a bit exhausted right now, but I agree wholesomely because actually I think we need to give it some time, and I know that it's also something that we want to have as quickly as possible, um, like done, and a process for it, and also in light of having the Athens DAO. Um, yeah, that's definitely something I already put it on the agenda or on my notes, so we can talk about that on Tuesday. But we shouldn't forget that we also had a lot of we had different topics the whole week. Like the issue with the gun token isn't something I would have liked to dismiss in favor for discussing the bounties. So we always have to balance things, and I think we're doing quite good.
Yeah, and we also discussed bounties in the prior call, but
Yeah.
I think we glossed over it in the actual live call. So I just think we also could remember to bring up things we think we already covered.
Yeah, and starting from today, it's a fixed section on the agenda. So it's
Yep, sounds good.
I
And thank
also
you,
tried to
Godflow.
highlight it that way. So yeah, God's love, many thanks.
Yeah, and I don't see it. I'm happy to start off as the bounty master, but I don't see this role being a one-person job, especially if we are evolving it the way it is. So it's probably going to be bounty masters down the
Yeah,
line, I'm
definitely,
sure. Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, I
Like
see it as a task force, as you had mentioned, God's love. I think having a group that is very easily identified. And again, I think we have the answer. It's just getting the people involved.
also better in order to like pre-screen bounties. So if you have more people to talk with about the bounties, um, um, yeah, it's similar to most other things we're doing. So um, nothing we do is just a one-person job.
Can't
No,
do it
like
without you guys.
each of you guys are like alpha, so you guys should always like go away from this call like feeling super proud about yourself. So this is definitely one of the richest conversations like I have. So
Dude, I just felt warmth in my heart right now expand throughout my body, and I don't know how to deal with it. I'm
Do you
serious.
know why? Do you know why? Because
No,
Dynite isn't here to keep us grounded.
right, right. He
uh,
spared. He's the reason. He's the reason you're still awake, crypto pause.
Yeah.
And I'm the reason you're almost asleep. Anyway, I'll stop there. I think we have a good go forward, and by Tuesday we should have a very definitive. I think documenting this is probably the missing piece. Just calling it out and saying this is how it works.
Hey guys, great call.
Thanks a lot.
Hey Cap.
Thanks everybody. Appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Love you. Love Grape. You guys are the best. Same Grape time, same Grape channel. Have a good week.
All right.